Hello and welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today we're going to be doing some stuff in the game mode and making a new BPI to go along with it. So the first thing we're going to do is make the new BPI. So I'm going to come into interfaces, make a new blueprint interface, and I'm going to call this BPI game mode, just so we know exactly what it is doing. BPI game mode only needs to do two different things here. The first thing is going to be I handle enemy death, and the second thing is going to be I handle boss death. And that's it. That's all we need to do. We could categorize these if we wanted, but for this is all we're going to need to do. So if you already have a BPI with your game mode, you would really just be adding these two functions into it. Nice and simple. We don't want to overcomplicate this. Now if we go into our game and we go into our game mode custom, and we open the full blueprint editor, we can go into the class settings, the implemented interfaces, and implement that BPI game mode. So now we know in any game mode we can go ahead and use these two events, just like we have been doing throughout most of this tutorial series. Now these two events, what they're going to do is they're actually going to call back the custom actor component that is going to live inside of this game mode. So we're going to go ahead and start doing a little bit of work on that actor component here. So we're going to go back into our wave game folder. We're going to make a new folder called components. And this component is going to be an actor component. So blueprint class actor component. We're going to call this AC spawn manager. We're going to open it up. Now in the game mode, we're going to come over to the components tab and we're going to add AC spawn manager. AC spawn manager is only going to live on the game mode, nowhere else. And that's what we're going to be using later on when we build out these functions and a couple more things. So let's talk about these two functions right here. These handle enemy death and handle boss death. Which I did make one mistake when we were making that BPI. I totally forgot. So our BPI game mode actually needs to take an input of an actor class. That way we know who we're communicating with in case we need to do anything else with it. So this is going to be in enemy, and we're going to do the same thing with boss, even though we won't actually be using it in this series. Let's say in boss. Otherwise, we're going to have no idea where the enemies are getting called back from. So now inside of our game mode, hopefully these have refreshed. If not, you might have to delete them and put them back in. We have that actor reference coming out of these two different BPI events. So whoever calls this is going to pass in a reference to self. So now we need to do two things inside of our spawn manager. So our spawn manager is going to be pretty beefy. I don't want to intimidate you, but we're going to be doing a lot of stuff inside of this spawn manager, and not all of it's going to be relevant right away. We're going to have to do a lot of stuff to make a lot of stuff work. But first, we're going to go ahead and just set up these two events we're going to need today, and maybe one or two more. So we're just going to make a custom event here called handle boss death, and we're going to make another one called set enemy inactive, because all the activation and deactivation logic for our enemies is going to be happening inside of the spawn manager component. We need to be able to set an enemy as being inactive, and for this set an enemy as being inactive, we need an actor class reference. Because remember, when we made our enemies, if it is a boss class, it's destroying itself, so we don't have to worry about that. But with an enemy, a normal enemy class, we need to make sure that we have a reference so we can tell it to go away, right? Go sit in the pool. You're not active anymore. We'll also need a way to make it active, but for now, we'll just worry about setting it as inactive. So we're going to compile, save this. We're going to go back into the game mode, and we're going to go ahead and call those. So handle boss death and set enemy inactive. Handle boss death. Set enemy inactive. And set enemy inactive is just going to pass in the enemy reference. Now on begin play, we are going to delay about 5 seconds, I suppose, before needing to call two other functions in the spawn manager. So we're going to go ahead and build those out as well, although we might not be using them right away, and we will probably have to mod them in the next episode. At least we'll have them and the game mode will be done, because that's all we do inside of our game mode. Basically just making sure that we have a way to call this actor component from anywhere in the world, and make sure that the game mode is saying, hey, yes, I want you to do this, and I want you to do that. So now inside of our AC spawn manager, we want to go ahead and create 2 more custom events. One is going to be setup next wave, and the other is going to be start countdown timer. And again, we're not too worried about building these right now. We're going to build a little bit of it, but we need to come into our game mode, and we need to go ahead and start the countdown timer first, and then set up next wave. Okay? And that is all we're going to do inside of our game mode. I know this is overwhelming, right? So we're going to close out of that. We're going to close out of BPI game mode. We don't need it anymore. And now we're going to focus on a couple things in our spawn manager, but first, I actually want to implement those inside of the enemy before we forget. So we're going to go into our enemy base here, which our enemy base is kind of messy right now, where we added these set actor hidden in-game and set actor enable collision on the I return to play events. We actually need to set these like earlier, and then we need to do this last. Just kind of an order of operations thing. You want to make sure that things are in the proper order. Like setting them is not being hidden in game, enabling their collisions and setting their health, and then saying, okay, I'm ready to be active. And then once I'm ready to be active, I want to get teleported over to where I'm supposed to be. So just a little bit of cleanup there. We're going to go ahead and just build that for the remove from play as well. So all we're doing here when we pool is just setting the actor hidden in game and setting the enable collision. If you want to do more than that, you're totally free to, but I think that this is honestly just enough. So we're going to take both of these and just duplicate them. Search set actor hidden in game and set actor enable collision. And before we move them, we are going to set new hidden. Set actor collision enabled is false this time, and set new hidden is true this time. And then we are just going to make sure that we also set the health back to 0. Because for whatever reason this enemy has died, it doesn't have health. We want to make sure that it doesn't. Otherwise we might end up with like weird errors. And that is it. Then we are just going to, again, teleport it to the pool. So we'll actually take this active, and we'll Control X this. Because this is something I kind of found in my game that I kind of needed. It's just set this at the end, and you might even have to delay a second, because sometimes it's not... this is going to be happening too fast in some circumstances, right? So something to keep in mind there. We may need a delay. It kind of depends on how your game is running. Alright, so now inside of our enemy base, where we were handling the death before, we're going to go ahead and call some stuff to make this actually work with the new system. Now that everything is kind of set up, we want to make sure that the enemy is properly set up, and then we can go ahead and move on. So now this base enemy here, after we say is boss, we're going to get game mode. Remember, this is on the try handle death event. We're going to get the game mode, and we're going to do I handle boss death on the true branch. And on the false branch, we are going to just duplicate this and say I handle enemy death. And that's basically going to allow us to do whatever it is we need to do. So we're going to get a reference to self on both of these as well. And that's basically just going to tell the game mode, hey, I've died. You need to do whatever it is you need to do with your server authority to handle my death. And nothing has actually changed down here. So we are done, I believe, with the player, with the enemy. Now, when I say nothing has changed down here, we set the actor hidden in game, right? I know this may confuse you when we handle death. But then we also are going to do that inside of the event here that gets called basically from the actor component that we're building, right? So we're kind of doing that twice. But this multicast event is really just to make sure that they are properly hidden as soon as possible. Because it may take a second for the server to come back and say, okay, this enemy is being hidden. We're doing all this stuff. It may take a second for the enemy to get hidden. We don't want ghost enemies, right? We don't want them lingering around after they've died on the clients. And that's why we run this multicast to just go ahead and hide them. And we don't disable collisions here because I found if we disabled collisions here, they would end up like doing the car ride. and they would get stuck in different animations, and it was just a mess. But just setting them hidden is, I think, fine, honestly, here. If you have some issues with it and you need to set more stuff as hidden in the multicast events later on, you can deal with that, but we're not going to be at that point for a very long time in this tutorial series, right? So we'll just save that, and we'll be done with it for now. Now, inside of our actor component for our wave manager, we are only going to set up one of these today, and that is going to be start countdown timer. And yeah, as you can see, I already messed this video up once, so we're just going to delete all that stuff. So, start countdown timer. This, again, remember, gets called from the game mode on event begin play. What we need to do here is we need to set timer by event. And we're going to be promoting this timer handle to a variable called countdown timer handle. That way we have access to it later on. This countdown needs to be 1 second, and it needs to be looping, because this is just going to be, again, it's taking until our next wave is ready. We're going to make a custom event for this, and it's going to be called run countdown timer. And we're going to run the countdown timer. But before we actually run this countdown timer, we need a variable to make sure that we are resetting it. So we're going to make a new variable. This is going to be an integer, and this is going to be called time elapsed. Time elapsed. We're just going to reset that to 0 when we start this countdown timer to make sure that it is 0. If it's not 0, we're going to end up with trouble when we run this countdown timer. It's not going to work the way we want it to, right? So on this run countdown timer, we're going to take time elapsed that we just set to 0, and we're going to increment it. So now it is going to be 1. Every time this ticks, it is going to go up by 1. When we do that, we need another integer here to basically check against this, and that's going to be called time between waves. And we're going to put this in a category called setup, because this is a very important variable to be like set up when you implement this actor component on whatever you're implementing it on. By default, we're going to give this a value of 5 seconds between waves. So that's how long you have to do whatever it is you're doing between the wave countdown, right? Which is not enough, obviously. You would want this to be like 30 or 45 or something more reasonable. We're going to subtract from that this time elapsed. And if you remember when we made our game state, we made a bunch of cool stuff. So we're going to say get game state. And from this get game state, we are going to say I set cooldown time remaining. Or I set countdown time remaining. I don't know why cooldown came to head. I set countdown time remaining to this subtracted value. So that is how much time is remaining before the end of the start of the next wave. We're going to take both of these integers here and duplicate them. Because we're going to need them over here. We need to see if the time elapsed is greater to or equal than the time between waves, because that's going to determine our next action. And if that is greater than or equal to the time between waves, then we need to get this countdown timer handle and stop it. We don't want to continue to tick this timer. So we're going to just clear and invalidate this. It's done. It's served its purpose, and we have completed the timer loop. So now once we've completed the timer loop, we need to get game state again. And I'm just going to be making a couple of variables here that we're going to be setting later on. But we're going to need to call all those interface events that we made. So we're going to need to call I set new current wave. And we're also going to call I enemies, I set total enemies, because these are going to be calculated by the time this timer is done running. All of this stuff that happens inside of our wave game is going to get calculated in between rounds while this timer is ticking down. So something to keep in mind there. So our I set current, new current wave, we're just going to promote this to a variable, and we're going to call this wave. I know it's a new weave. I still haven't fixed that. It's wave. And then we're also going to promote this to new total to total enemies. Because we're going to be needing that later on as well. And for now, we'll just leave those be. One more thing has to happen on this timer event, and that is one more custom event that we're not going to get to today. But it's going to be called Start Next Wave. And this is basically just the trigger to say, okay, we have done our countdown timer. We are all set up for the next wave. It's time to go ahead and start it. I don't know why I said set next wave when I definitely said start. next wave, right? And it's start next wave. And we're going to call that start next wave right here at the end. And that's all we're going to do here. You may need to delay a tick. I don't think I need to. I'm good on that. That is our just whole timer function in and of itself. So we're just going to comment this and say handle countdown timer. Okay, handle countdown timer. That is done. It's out of the way. So yeah, we did make another custom event to take its place, but I think that's fine. We got the timer out of the way. And I figured, why not go ahead and just show the countdown timer handle in here. It's going to take a second to load up, but we're going to load up, and it's going to wait a few seconds, and then everyone's going to get the countdown timer. And yeah, 3, 2, 1, yay, time to start the wave, but we didn't set anything like that up yet. And we're going to be setting up the structure to handle all of our data the next episode. Thank you for watching. Consider joining our Patreon. For just $3 a month, you'll get instant access to all of the project files and the videos as soon as they come out. Now, on to the next one.